What's up guys, Stevie here with Lucky Crit. Over the past few weeks, we've begun to be flooded with new Fire Emblem Echoes information, especially from PAX East, and we also have new game footage thanks to Rebecca Valentine from apptrigger.com, new information from Weekly Famitsu, and the Japanese website has been updated with even more new information, so let's dive in. First off, we have further confirmation that the weapon triangle won't be present in Echoes, with GameSpot's coverage of the PAX East demo commenting, also absent was the traditional weapon triangle, although the rep did say that there are ways to gain an advantage in battles without offering any specifics. If this is something new, and not just advantages we as longtime series veterans and fans know about already, this could be interesting. However, it does appear to me that he may just be talking about terrain advantages, considering in Gaiden the terrain advantages were through the roof. We later received footage from the PAX East demo, and things appear to be the same as in the original trailer, so it's pretty much confirmed. No weapon triangle in Echoes, just like Gaiden. GameSpot also commented that there would be no support system during combat, but I believe that they are mistakenly referring to the lack of tag team and pair-up from Fire Emblem Awakening and Fire Emblem Fates, which we discussed in our first video on Fire Emblem Echoes. Check it out if you haven't already. I believe they're mistaken because judging by the imagery present in the first trailer we received, and some new footage we'll discuss in a bit, there's definitely a lot pointing towards support boost returning. We also definitely had a cut-in of Grey in the upper left corner when Alm went to attack in that original trailer, and if that's not some sort of latent support boost from being near Grey, I don't quite know what that is. The first screenshot we received from GameSpot showcases a purple-haired archer, who we now know as Leon, attacking a Revenant. From this screenshot we can see that he has the full 1 to 5 tile range of the archers in Gaiden, and this is further confirmed in the footage we later received.
I'll handle this myself.
This also makes it seem that archers will be able to initiate combat from 1 tile away as well, not just counterattack from that distance. Like we mentioned last time, we can also see the inclusion of iron weapons here, which did not exist in Gaiden. This will help Gaiden's large leap to steel weaponry and further pad out the weapon types in-game. From this screenshot we can see that the localized name for the enemy monsters will be Terrors. We can also see here that the stats of the Revenant are exactly the same as their base stats in Gaiden, where they were called zombies. It also seems that the tech stat and the European and Japanese screenshots we received has in fact been renamed to Skill for the American version, so that will continue to be familiar for everyone. In the bottom right we can see an interesting clock icon, which is grayed out in some screenshots, but accessible when Tobin is selected in another screenshot. We'll talk more about this later. In this screenshot of Tobin attacking a Revenant, we can see that his hit rate and critical bars have a small red portion towards the right, which implies a boost. We also saw this from when Alm attacked the soldier in the original trailer. If that doesn't look like a support boost to you, I'm not sure what would. However, even though this seems likely that support boosts will be in the game, please note that as of yet we still haven't received any confirmation of the support conversations in-game. However, I'd like to think that Intelligent Systems has learned their lesson from Shadow Dragon. Once again, if we take a look at Tobin's attributes on the lower screen, we can see that he has attributes for bow range +1 and anti-flyers, pretty standard fare for the Archer class in Fire Emblem. Since Tobin didn't have this skill in previous screenshots, it appears that perhaps archers received their anti-flyers attribute from equipping a non-standard bow. But there's also an unknown skill. This, along with the steel bow in the center of the screen, seems to indicate that this entire right-hand section will be for weapon skills and class attributes. Assuming this unknown skill isn't merely a placeholder, perhaps it's a skill that the character is in the process of learning based upon their weapon usage. If we take a look under the steel bow, there is a gauge under it. We can also see that there are 5 grayed out blips underneath the steel bow's name. Maybe we'll be able to level up weapons by using them often and learn skills at different weapon ranks? Based upon Tobin's stats when compared to our original screenshots of him, it looks like his steel bow has a +3 attack and a -3 speed modifier. The attack portion remains consistent with the steel bow in Gaiden having 3 might, and seems to be modifying his attack as weapons do in Fire Emblem Heroes, and maybe the -3 speed is because of the steel bow's weight? In Gaiden the weight of steel bows was 1, but since we now see that iron weapons will be in the game, it's likely to have been rebalanced. In the next screenshot, we can see Alm at Zovia Castle again, this time with a little information page about the castle area on the lower screen, which will be cool to see if they have these screens for every area, and will definitely flesh out the game's lore a bit more. At this point in the game, Alm has 11 units, which is the same as his party in Gaiden, now with the new character Effie, the mysterious villager, added into the mix. The next interesting bit of info is the calendar system, where we can see that the Pegasus season that we had translated earlier on has now been officially localized as Pegastime. In the last screenshot, we can see Alm entering the Deliverance hideout, which appears to be the localized version of the Liberation HQ from Gaiden. In the new story trailer we received recently, it seems that Celica suspects Alm to be the leader of the Deliverance, which we can now assume to be the name of the Zophian Liberation Army.
He's leading the Deliverance, isn't he?
On the bottom screen we can now see that Alm has more characters in his party, including the 3 members of the Deliverance and Silk the Cleric. From looking at the character models, it looks like the player has made Grey a mercenary, Tobin an archer, Cliff a mage, and Effie, now localized as Faye, a cavalier. Claire, Clive's Pegasus Knight's sister, appears to be missing here, but since there's only space for 10 units in his party, it's possible she's just not on this list. We can also see Alm exploring the Deliverance hideout, which confirms that dungeons and echoes will have breakable rocks and objects that GameSpot also mentioned in their preview.
The enemy could be anywhere. We need to proceed carefully.
From the later release footage, we can see that the map on the bottom screen updates itself and fills itself out as you explore, fairly typical fare for RPG dungeon crawlers. It also indicates chests and enemy locations. What's also cool about this is that there is occasional dialogue, both voiced and text, that appears as you explore, a definite enhancement for fleshing out the game's exploration and story. We also learn that the hideout used to be a graveyard for Zophian nobility.
These sprawling catacombs were built as a resting place for Zophia's most distinguished families. But now, their halls are clogged with the stench of the dead. Rotten corpses who have risen again as terrors.
While inside the dungeon, Alm can press A to attack, which can be used to break objects, destroy crumbling doors, and attack enemies, much like the Tales series. Items can also be found within the rocks and crumbling objects, like the hard bread, which, like the carrot from last time, seems to be more food that's usable in battle. The B button is used to dash, which allows you to traverse dungeons more quickly. It also seems like it can be combined with the A button for a nice dash attack. We also have confirmation that Fire Emblem Echoes will now be the first Fire Emblem game in the series to feature full voice acting, aside from some minor characters according to GameSpot.
Oh, great. Another graveyard filled with even more terrors.
Oh, grow a spine already.
Judging by the footage we have so far, it's looking to be pretty incredible. Perhaps they decided to do this because of Gaiden's overall smaller cast of characters. Because of its quick reveal and ever closer looming release date, originally I was skeptical as to the quality this title would have, but after seeing more and more in-game footage, I can safely say that Nintendo and Intelligent Systems have definitely pulled out all the stops for this game. In battle, the cursor starts on Alm or Celica in typical Fire Emblem fashion, but we also receive a glimmer on their sprites as well. Nice touch. We can also see here that Alm appears to have 2 unknown attributes, so it really does seem like these will be weapon or class skills that the character has to unlock by using their equipped weapon. When Lucas is selected, we can see that his skills have a lance symbol, which does seem to further testify that these skills are coming from the different characters' weapons. It also appears that these iron weapons will be replacing Gaiden's original generic sword or lance weapons, and these new versions appear to provide a +2 attack boost. We now receive our first actual look at the mysterious villager from the original footage. This character has been localized as Faye, and she is equipped with an orange. Perhaps this indicates that she is equipped with a generic lance and doesn't have an iron version in her inventory. Notice that since she doesn't have a non-generic weapon equipped, she doesn't have any potential attributes or skills to learn. As we speculated earlier, like in Gaiden, the minimum damage dealt in Echoes is 1. You can tell that here, because the enemy Revenant has 5 attack while Faye has 7 defense, yet Faye takes 1 damage anyway instead of 0. I also want to point out here that because of all the information we now have about Faye, it seems incredibly unlikely for her to be a My Unit or Avatar character, so it seems that the Avatar will not be present in Echoes, as we previously assumed. If we think about it though, the concept just doesn't work well with Echoes. We already have 2 main characters with their own story paths, much like Ephraim and Erica in Gaiden's spiritual successor, the Sacred Stones, and the Avatar wouldn't be able to jump between both armies due to story reasons, so it just didn't work in this game. We also get our first look at critical hits in Echoes, which appears to be a nice combination of the Awakening and Fate style of cut-ins, this time featuring the whole character artwork for a moment, which harkens back to early Awakening footage we saw, where they were trying out a variation of this with critical hits in that game. On Celica's battlefield, we can see that there are 2 enemy groups present, the Terrors and Grieth's crew. So like in previous Fire Emblem games featuring the world map, you will be able to encounter multiple enemy groups on a single battlefield. We can see that Celica will be very versatile as a unit, with both black and white magic at her disposal as well as her swords. She is holding the item Holy Cheese, which I think further indicates her as having just a generic weapon equipped as well. We can also see that she has access to Fire, Thunder, and Seraphim, which is the newly localized version of Angel that we saw in the last episode. Compared to before, we can see that Seraphim has 1 less might from its Gaiden counterpart, so it does seem to further establish that weapons and magic have been slightly rebalanced.
I must complete my mission.
Those of you aware of the late game Gaiden classes and weapons may be relieved to hear such. We can also see that Celica has a Provisions command, which appears to be the localized name for the food option we saw in the first trailer. Considering that Celica can use the Items command to check or use her current item, and the Convoy command to access the convoy, this food command must do something special. None of Celica's other allies have this command, so it seems that Alm and Celica alone will have it, and perhaps they can give food to other allies. We can also see that Bowie has drinking water, so it appears that there will be a wealth of different food and items in this game. Next we see Kamui, one of Valbar's allies. Next to his name is a Mila statue, which seems to indicate that he's ready for promotion, since if he had been in Gaiden, he would be able to class change as a level 7 or higher mercenary. He also has a steel sword, which provides attack +4 and speed -1, again consistent with Gaiden. He also has a pair of unknown attributes corresponding to his weapon as well, however this time the second unknown attribute has less question marks. Is the number of question marks directly related to the attribute name? Another Celica ally, Jenny, is equipped with a leather shield for a +3 defense boost. This confirms that, like in Gaiden, unique weapons and shields cannot be equipped together. The leather shield also has a gauge, but this time no grayed out circles under its name. Will your unit have to keep taking hits in order to level up the shield? Perhaps this is why you only need to level it up once, which may be why there are no gray circles for other weapon ranks. When selected, we can see that Jenny's physic range appears to be rather large, at least 10 tiles. In Gaiden, physic reached the entire map, so that could be why. We can also see that Jenny's invoke skill appears to be the localized name of the illusion spell that summons up to 8 phantoms that fight for you. She also has Nosferatu, which debuted in Gaiden and was notorious for having a hit rate of 50 in a game where only the spell's hit rate was taken into account. It appears to now have a 60 hit rate, a slight but welcome improvement. We can also see Valbar here, with some dried meat in his inventory, squaring off against a brigand. Saber, a character we saw in the first trailer of the game, has a golden dagger equipped. This is a new weapon that looks to act like a weak sword, with attack +1 and a range of 1. Now we see Mei, Bowie's companion and rival, who has some bread. Finally, there's Leon, the purple-haired archer, who is a sniper here. Interestingly, his iron bow provides attack +2 and speed -2, rather than just the attack boost. Since the steel bow had a -3 to speed, this seems to indicate that bows will have additional speed decreases to balance them, especially since they have a 1 to 5 range. Leon also has bow range +2 and upgraded bow range +1 attribute. If we look at his attack range, it seems that the iron bow has a 1 to 3 range by default. In Gaiden, non-generic bows had a range of 1 to 5, so at least for iron, things have been switched up a little. If we look between the multiple clips, we have definitive evidence of the weapon gauges increasing with usage, as we can see Leon with 38 experience and an increased bow rank gauge when compared to the previous 25 experience Leon and a blank gauge. Mei also receives a silver purse from defeating a brigand, which appears to contain silver coins used for forging weapons, another new feature we've had in later Fire Emblem titles. We can also see that there are gold coins too. Their purpose, as of yet, is unknown. Coins were also used to provide a forging bonus in Radiant Dawn, so this could be very interesting. We also see Mei leveling up, and even though she only gets 2 stat gains, she seems relatively pleased.
I'm on a roll today! Is Mila pulling strings for me, or what?
We also see Jenny getting a level later on, and is only a little bit perturbed by getting a single stat gain, so even though this isn't a wealth of proof, it seems that Gaiden's low growth rates will be returning, so don't be expecting to get perfect level ups very often at all. Awakening, Fates, and other newer entries have been very generous in terms of level ups when compared to the older games. We can also see Mei learning the Aura skill upon level up, as is the case with spellcasters in Gaiden. For those of you hoping that supports will return, take a gander at this. After Mei and Celica's battles in the footage here, we can see that a glowing aura surrounds the two of them since they are nearby each other. This looks to me like further proof that supports, at least in terms of physical stat boosts between two characters, will in fact be present in Echoes. Interesting to note is the fact that they don't have to be directly adjacent, instead present in a small area. While the characters' portraits don't appear in the combat forecast like Grey's did with Alm in the initial trailer, it seems that this could merely indicate that they don't have a support relationship rank yet. When the player goes to end their turn, we get a glimpse of a new menu option, Turn Wheel. Could this be related to the clock in the lower right corner of everyone's status screen? We'll come back to this later. The enemy archer that attacks Mei appears to only have a 1 to 3 bow range, and judging by the bow range +1 attribute that archers have, it seems that generic bows will only provide a range of 1 to 2 tiles. Lastly, one of Griet's men is an arcanist. It looks to be a localized version of the sorcerer class that was unique to Gaiden, and it is casting Miasma, which appears to be a localized version of the Dora spell, and slightly nerfed with 5 less hit rate. The March 30th issue of Weekly Famitsu has also brought us a bunch of new information. An item called Mila's Gear will be a valuable piece of equipment that can peer into the past and the future. With it in your possession, you can rewind the actions of one unit at a time. We can see Mei getting killed by a mercenary on turn 1, and it seems you can rewind to back before the mercenary attacked, and try again. However, the author does mention that there are limits and it can't easily be abused. The clock gear in the bottom right has been revealed to be related to the Mila's gear. Perhaps the number present indicates the number of actions that you can rewind. So far it's always been 3, so maybe you can only rewind up to 3 actions. I'd also assume that there will be a cooldown before you're able to use it again. Maybe you'll have to wait multiple in-game days for it to fill back up. It also appears to have the ability to scan amiibo, so perhaps they will play into the Mila's gear features as well. We also have more news about the mysterious character that we've discussed in the past 2 episodes, and he has now been revealed as Burkett, the Regalian Emperor's nephew, an advocate of the nobility who prizes his social standing. He convinced Desai to turn traitor and instigate the Zophian coup. He's vying to be the next emperor and commands the invasion of Zofia to prove his military prowess. It seems he will be filling the role of a villain or rival character, and we have a screenshot of him colluding with Desai, the Zophian traitor. We can also see that in the beginning of the game, Alm will be living in Ram Village, which has been taken over by Desai, who helped to orchestrate the assassination of the royal family. Because of this, the Deliverance is formed to free Zofia from Regalian control. Lucas then visits Ram Village to recruit soldiers, where he meets Alm. Far away on the Isle of Novus, Celica sets off on a journey to discover why they are having poor harvests and sightings of monsters known as terrors are increasing. Nintendo has also upgraded the Japanese website for Echoes with lots of new information. The game's calendar will progress 1 day per world map movement, akin to the Final Fantasy Tactics series. Judging by this, it looks like the game will begin on the first day of the flower season. We've also got a beautiful look at the first map of Echoes, based on the very nostalgic and classic first map of Gaiden. Faye, the new villager, is also present here as well. This is a screenshot of a Pegasus Knight fighting an Arcanist. It's probably Claire, as she's in the Gaiden comparison picture. The next new screenshot features Celica. At this point in the game, she has her whole party from Chapter 2 and a Holy Ring equipped, so she's probably about halfway through the second chapter of the game. There's also some new Valentian history here, which is nice to see, as hopefully the story has been much further fleshed out from what it was in Gaiden. I won't read through all of it here and now, but you can check it out in the description down below. Behind the story text is a looping video that mostly contains footage we've seen before, but briefly includes a few new shots of an unknown villain standing before a glowing light, likely a Duma worshipper, like Judah from Gaiden, standing in front of a resurrecting Duma. We can also see here that the game will feature normal and hard difficulties, but we have no word just yet on whether or not Lunatic will be an unlockable mode. The original Gaiden only had a secret easy mode. We've finally gotten a much better look at the world map in action, and I must say, the map sprites in this game are looking absolutely beautiful, some of the best we've ever gotten. To the right here, we can see what appears to be Palla and Catria being attacked by brigands, if this has been left unchanged since Gaiden. The player then switches over to Celica, but it appears the battle footage we're taken to is from a different point in the game, as it's a ship battle, whereas the Palla and Catria map takes place on land. And we can also see Valbar and company in the upper left. Valbar also has a shield icon on him, so it appears he'll be an NPC that you have to protect. When Celica is selected, we can see that there is a talk bubble above Mei. So this definitely seems to confirm the return of chapter-specific character conversations like in other Fire Emblem games. Before Celica attacks the enemy, we can see she appears to have a support bonus from Jenny, who is 2 spaces away, and the enemy's critical hit rate has been reduced to 0. Entering the battle retains the map zoom effect from Fates, which looks even better here. The animations in Echoes are much smoother and more beautiful than those of Awakening and Fates as well, which is gorgeous. In this clip of Celica on the world map, we can see that it is currently bird season, and based off of previous evidence, it seems the different chapters in the story take a season each, so it seems that there will only be 1 or 2 more seasons for chapters 4 and 5. In this screenshot, we can see that Faye has been reclassed into a Pegasus Knight, which is very interesting considering villagers could not reclass into Pegasus Knights in Gaiden. Is this because Faye's the first female villager? Does she lose a class in exchange for getting Pegasus Knight? In the next set of screenshots, we can see Mei attacking a terror with the Aura spell. Compared to Gaiden, it has 1 less might, but 2 less weight. She's also equipped with a speed ring to offset the high weight of Aura, and we can also see that she is receiving a support boost from Jenny. In the final screenshot, we can see Grey attacking a soldier and getting a support boost from both Tobin and Alm, which appears to give him a critical boost and a big boost to hit rate. We can also make out 2 Pegasus Knights here, one to the right and one below Grey. Both have light-colored hair, so it seems that Claire, Clive's sister, is no longer blue-haired in Echoes. From Amazon Japan's product description, we've learned that when you scan the Alm or Celica amiibo, you can unlock a special dungeon in Echoes. Players can also write their in-game Alm and Celica data to the corresponding amiibo, and use the same amiibo to summon a Phantom Warrior in-game whose stats depend on the written data. Amiibo can be scanned via the Mila's Gear option on the world map. Doing so will unlock the Summon Amiibo ability. Any amiibo can be scanned, but only Alm or Celica's amiibo will unlock the special dungeon and have their unit data written to the amiibo. During battles, Alm or Celica can use the Summon Amiibo ability, which will allow you to scan an amiibo and in turn summons a Phantom Warrior to fight alongside you. The summon unit depends on the type of amiibo scanned. There's a few more things we could talk about, but for the sake of time, we'll just discuss them in a future episode. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it this far into the video, comment echoes in the comment section below, and slash that thumbs up if you enjoyed this episode or learned something new. Also be sure to let me know what you think about having the ability to rewind time and undo actions in Fire Emblem Echoes. Will this be an awesome feature? Let me know below. And I'll be sure to see you guys in the next episode.